Hello everyone and welcome to class. This is Bob Hendry and today is Tuesday, the 15th of October, 2019. So welcome back. Now all of you should have finished up your midterms or should be finishing up your midterms and emailing them back to me. So you still have technically a few more days to work on it. Actually, more than a few, almost a week. You have to turn it in next Sunday. But don't wait to the last minute, especially if you need some help working on it or if you have some questions that you have to ask me. Ask me sooner rather than later, but that's what you should be working on right now. Now, where we're at in class right now is we're kind of turning the page and going into a different unit. Remember the first unit was working with databases and a little bit more on the history and the background of computing and some of the constructs of computer science. And we also worked a lot with databases. Now, the next unit we're going to be working on, starting today, is we're going to start working with languages. As we alluded to in the first couple days of this course, we're talking about, possibly using languages such as C++, C Sharp, and or C++, C Sharp, and Java. So we're going to start with using Java as a language as of today. So for the remainder of today, we're going to have a lecture on using the Java Integrated Development Environment, or IDE, and writing some simple Java programs. So our objectives are as follows. By the end of the session, you'll be able to use a Java IDE to write, debug, and run Java code.
So let's get started with Coding Ground. Now, Coding Ground is really a cloud platform for writing code. And we can write all kinds of code on Coding Ground. We can write Java code, Ruby, we can do some jQuery, we could do some HTML, just to name a few. Now, what I like about Coding Ground is the following. It allows us to try different either scripting languages or full languages such as Java without really downloading anything. I mean, back in the old days, what we'd have to do is we'd have to go to, for example, if we wanted to learn Java, we would have to go to the Java website, we'd have to download the JDK, which is the Java Development Kit, install it locally, and then do all of our Java programming local. The same if we wanted to write Oracle script or Oracle Apex script. If we wanted to do anything with Angular, we had to do the same thing. If we wanted to do anything with SQL Server, we had to download the Microsoft tools to do so. So basically what we had to do generally is we had to do just a whole bunch of downloads every time that we wanted to do anything as far as learn a language, either a scripting language or a full-fledged language such as Java or SQL Server. Now, there are other websites out there that allow us to do this, but I like Coding Ground because of a few things. Number one, it is free. You can go to Coding Ground and you could set up your own account. It's very easy to do. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't need to put in your credit card or your firstborn or anything of that nature. You just put in your information and then you get started. And also, we have dozens of languages that we can play with. It says 75 plus. It's about that. I haven't tried all 75. I don't know if anyone really has time to go over all 75. But basically, if you want to get up and going and learn a language quickly, this is a way to do it. And plus, since it's cloud-based, you don't have to download anything. Now, again, that has some obvious implications on your home computer or what you would do, for learning languages either on your laptop or at work. But even beyond that, anywhere you're at, as long as you could get to this URL, tutorials.codingground.htm, you can start writing some code. So that way you don't have to be stuck with, hey, you know what, I can't do this because I'm not at my home computer, or I can't write some Java because I'm not at my work computer. You can do this anywhere. So what I want you to do is, if you're following along with me, is I'm not going to give you this URL and explode it out there, but I will expect you to probably Google it. Just go to Google and Google tutorialpoint.com or tutorial point Coding Ground. And it's one word, CODINGGROUND, Coding Ground, all one word. And it'll bring you to this website that you see right here. So at this point, what you can do is you can navigate to the very bottom, and then you can set up your own account. So what I'm going to do is over the next maybe 10 minutes or so is I'm going to go over kind of navigating through the website for Coding Ground. I'd like you to use it for writing some code. So we're at the landing page here, but if you kind of scroll down, again, I'm going to kind of give you a guided tour. You have the different languages that are highlighted here at the landing page. Like for example, HTML, cascading style sheets. Pardon me, I'm just going to close this. If you see these things pop up, just ignore them. I got some notifications popping up here. jQuery, some Bootstrap, Ruby, which is an important one, and then also we have some other code we can write here. I believe this icon is SQL Server, so we could write some SQL script here. It's a little bit faded on my monitor, but anyway, so if you scroll down, here are the different online terminals that you can be writing. Now, basically, we have three different kinds of things that we can do in Coding Ground. We can write scripting language, or we could do some scripting code. And by the way, that icon was Python. Like I said, it was a little bit faded out on my monitor, so I couldn't really identify it. So let's move on. So anyway, your online terminals are your REPLs or your command line scripting languages that you can write. Now, very popular ones here are PowerShell. PowerShell is the Windows command line that you can write some shell scripts. You hear that term a lot, PowerShell scripts. That's the Windows, scripting language that you can be writing. We're going to be also, you can use for the online terminals. You can write some Python, CentOS, and this is for Linux, MySQL for some database scripting, some Node.js, some Node JavaScript, some if you want to write some JavaScript code. We got Ruby, which is kind of important. We have also some Oracle scripting, and then you can see some other ones. I'm not going to read them all to you. PHP is noteworthy, and MongoDB is noteworthy as well. I'm serious, folks. I don't know where these online scripting programs were. They've been my whole life, because up until just recently, for me to learn any of these or to play with them, I had to download the entire JDK for them, or the entire command line, or what's called the CLI, the command line interface. Now also, in addition to the online terminals, we got some front-end technologies. Now the front-end technologies are the presentation layer stuff. Again, this is the stuff that you see, such as Angular, JS, JavaScript. We got some HTML5, some jQuery mobile, and we got some TypeScripting as well, and jQuery. So these are the front-end technologies that you can be playing with if you want them to do things such as, emulate what your front end is going to look like. We have document editors, and we have compilers and interpreters. Look at all these languages that we can play with. We have Ada. That's a real old one. Angular. We have even COBOL. We have C++. Some ones that are near and dear to me. Bash Shell, if you want to do some Unix scripting. C++, C, Groovy, again, a Java-like language. But we also have some real Java. We got Java 8, we have Java, MySQL, a whole bunch of them. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to kind of go through this website and look at all these different languages that you can use. And again, here we got our advanced IDEs. You're going to see the term all the time. IDE stands for integrated, an IDE is your integrated development environment. So we got Java, Ruby, Scala if you're doing scientific programming. There are more scripting languages and true languages here that you can shake a stick at. So what I want us to do is I want us to get familiar with a few of these. Now, obviously, we're not going to be hitting them all at once, but we're going to hit them kind of one at a time as we kind of go through them. Now, also while you're here, what I want you to do is I want you to go into Coding Ground, which is the website you're at now, and then set up your own user ID. I set up mine as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a demo on writing a Java program. And again, you could ignore these ads. So to write a Java program, I'm going to navigate down to where it says online compilers and interpreters. And actually, I think I might have passed it. Let me see. Sorry, I don't want to give you scroll blindness. Yeah, let me go to online compilers and interpreters, and let me go to Java 8. So I'm going to click on Java 8. And immediately what I'm going to get is I'm going to get like a paned web page where I got my code on the left-hand side, and I got the results of what my code is going to output on my right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a bit of a kind of a quick sort of lecture on, pardon me, I'm going to give you a quick lecture on Java coding and how this works in Coding Ground. A few things here. Now, notice I'm logged in, or I'm not logged in yet. So even though you see like my picture up there, I'm logged in to my Google account. But let me click on Login. And if this is you, you can just do a sign up now. But I'm going to log in as me. I already have my user ID and my password set up. And I also have some projects that I've already started. So I'm going to ignore this. I'm going to close my projects and go back to where you see here. Now, let me kind of show you this interface a little bit. What you see here is you see my Java program. Now, you know nothing about writing Java programs at all. So this is going to be a place where you're going to kind of learn just that. But let me show you a little bit about the IDE that we're logged into. We're going to be concerned with a few of these tabs. Source file, again, is going to be the one that we're concerned the most with. Now, the source file is going to show us exactly what our code looks like. And then we click on execute. And what execute's going to do is execute's going to run our program. And then we can share, we can save. Also, what's important to us is under project here, we can do things such as create a new project, which is basically, creating, new programs or new scripts. We can save and we can share. So right off the bat, we're only going to be concerned with saving our project and executing it. And also you can change some of your settings. You can change your font size to be a little bit bigger. And I'm going to see if I can do that just so we don't have to squint. So that doesn't have that much of an effect here. All right, anyway, so what you can do is you can play with your look and feel. I'm not going to do that here, but that's where you would do it. You can change your themes. Like, for example, if I want to have like an Eclipse look and feel, I think I'm going to do that too. Or if you wanted like, for example, change your tabs or, again, your editor theme. So I changed mine to Eclipse just for grins. You don't have to do that, but I'm just going to change mine to Eclipse. If you don't know what Eclipse is a IDE, an integrated development environment that's used for Java coding. So to me, this looks like, an Eclipse interface, even though it isn't. All right, so anyway, when you start a Java program, let's talk about these different numbers here. You're going to see here the JDK. Now, the JDK stands for the Java Developers Kit. Now, if you wanted to, what you could have done is you could have went, on Google, and you could have Googled download Java, and you would have went to the Oracle site because Oracle currently has the Java downloads, and you could have, if you wanted to, downloaded the JDK or the Java Development Kit and running it, and you could have installed it and ran it local. No problem, easy peasy. But we're not doing that. What we're doing is you don't have time for that, and we don't want to be tied to one computer. So what we're doing is we're using Coding Ground. So what this is telling us is we're using the JDK 1.8. Now, this is important because Java comes in different versions, which shouldn't come as a surprise to you. I mean, everything comes in different versions, right? So here, we're using 1.8. That's also known as Java 8. Now, Java has the following name convention. You have like 1.1, which is just called Java 1 or Java. 1.2, which is called Java 2, all the way up to the most current version of Java 8. So when you look at this and you look at JDK 1.8.0, what you are saying is I am using Java 8. So that's why you see Java 8 here and then JDK 1.8. So that's why 8 equals 1.8. Okay, so we got that out of the way. So in Java, let me explain to you how to write a Java program. Now, Java programs always start out with a public class. Now, notice when we created a new program here in Coding Ground, a new Java program in Coding Ground, what happened was Coding Ground gave us a very basic Java application to start with. Just because it was nice and Coding Ground didn't want us to start off by writing one from scratch, which is fine. So our source file is the following. We have a public class. Now, all Java programs start out with this, with public class. Now, as you get farther into your Java world or your Java studies, you're going to find out that there are other different kinds of classes of Java. Now, these are the things I'm going to mention now are nice to knows. They're not need to knows. They're nice to knows. Right now, just worry about starting out with a public class. But as I was saying, when you get farther into your Java travels, you're going to have private classes and you're going to have different kinds of classes. For now, don't worry about it. This is just a easy peasy, happy class. Say that 10 times fast. Happy path tutorial. From there, you have the name of your class. It's kind of the name of your program, too. Although in Java, they are two different things. Now, the name of your class or your program we have is Hello World. Now, generally, and now we talked about a little bit about convention versus syntax. This is both. Your Java class or your program should start out with a capital letter, and every other word should be capital. And notice we're not using any spaces, any special characters, nothing funny. No funny business here. We're just saying hello world. We're starting out with a capital H and a capital W. Hello world. Now, when we have our program, we have our braces. Every time you have a start brace, you have to have a corresponding end brace. So in this case, I have my start brace for hello world, and I have my end brace here. And then we have line 3 and 5 within my start brace and my end brace. Now again, I'm talking to you guys like you don't know Java. If you know Java, you maybe you're in the wrong class. But anyway, so when we have our class with the start brace and the end brace, anything that's between our start and our end brace is called our class block. So we talk about blocks of code when we do Java, and indeed with a lot of other, scripting languages as well. Even though Java is kind of a full-fledged language, some of you might beg to differ on that. I tend to think of Java as a full-fledged language, not necessarily as a scripting language, which is kind of like a semi-language, although it's used for both. So we're kind of taking a little bit of a liberty with some definitions here, which is just fine for now. But anyway, that's our class block. Now, within our class block, a Java program needs the following. It needs to have a main method, and it needs to be spelled exactly like this. Now, methods in Java are functions. You get data that goes into a function and data that comes out of a function. Now, here what we have is we have the main method. Now, the main method is very important because that's where your program or your class block, in this case called hello world, will start executing. So no main method, no executable code. You need to have your main method in your hello world class block. And just a couple things about this. This public is a modifier, just saying that the main method is public. We're not going to really talk too much now about public versus private methods, but public just means that any class can find it. Static just means it's one per class. Void means it returns nothing. If you're just getting started, just skid by these for now. You'll get back to them. Just explaining what they are because they're right in front of you. Important, your main method. Your main method has to be spelled exactly like this, and it's where your program starts executing. And also, your main method has arguments that are passed into it. A little bit about that in a bit, but that's what this string args is. For this example, safely ignore it. It's fine. We'll get back to a lot of this. I'm just kind of trying to get us through a happy path example without breaking out all of the object-oriented hoops and what every line is, because there's really a lot going on here. So basically, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to sell you on the main idea, and then we can kind of go back in another example and kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Distill it down a little bit. So anyway, so this is where we start executing. Now, you don't know how to write any code yet. And for what we're doing here is we're not going to write a whole bunch. I just want to get this to work and save it. System.out.println will write out to the command line, or basically it'll echo it back. It'll write it out to the command line so you will see hello world. So I'm just going to change this. I'm going to say hello world. I'm going to change world to hello Bob. That's me. So I'm just going to copy and paste 3 lines, and now I'm going to put my family numbers in here. Put hello Cadence. I'll put hello Cassie. And hello Kathy. My immediate family is all females, and all their names begin with a C. Poor me. Okay, anyway, so what I'm doing is I'm adding different lines of code here. And when I run this, and I'm not doing it now because that's going to be easy. It'll be predictable. I'll run it, and you'll say, hello, Bob, hello, Cadence, hello, Cassie, hello, Kathy. All anticlimactic, very predictable. Let's not go there just yet. All right, so when I do run this, I'm going to click on execute, and the main method will fire, and then one by one, these lines of code will execute. But let's not do that yet. Let's save this, because at the end of the day, you're going to want to save your code. You're going to go home, have something cold, call your boyfriend, call your girlfriend, and then forget about this. So let me go into project. Let me save this. Now, when I save this, it's going to save it as the specific class. Now, notice when I do the project, and well, first of all, you can take a look. I'm logged in because you see where it says Robert. But when I go into project and I go to save project, you notice that it's saved. That's what that crawl was. Now, if I go to Robert, I could go to my projects, and my view will change. And it's going to have all my projects in here. Now, I don't really get to choose what my project ID is. For now. Well, I really can't. Just don't worry about it for now. So what it's saying here is I have 3 projects. Now, I only created one when you were looking. When you weren't looking, I created 2 others. And it shows me which language my project is in. Look at that. I did a Ruby project. I did a Java project, actually 2 Java projects. And it shows me the creation date last time they're updated. So if I want to edit any of these projects, I can just simply go and click on, well, I could do a few things. I'm not going to delete. We know what that does. But let me go to open. Let me open the project I'm working on, which is the one I'm working on right here. I'm going to click on open. It's going to refresh my view. Now, a couple things happened there. First of all, it looked like my page refreshed. It didn't. What happened was I actually got logged out of my project, got logged back in to Coding Ground, and my project loaded. And it authenticated me because that is me, and there I am. So your stuff can get saved. Where does it get saved at? It gets saved in the cloud. Don't worry about it where it gets saved. It gets saved in Coding Ground. It's not saved local. Now, again, this is important because that means that you can save your projects in any computer in the world, right, that has internet access. You can log into and you can work on your project. Now, again, there's like 75 different languages that we can play with. We're playing with Java right now. So what did we do? All right, we kind of to review here. We logged in the Coding Ground or navigated the Coding Ground. I gave you a little bit of a song and dance on what Coding Ground's all about, what it does, blah, 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 blah. I also said find a way, navigate through the site, and create your own account. No credit card required, user ID, and then put in your password, and then you're done. Okay, perfect. From there, I just showed you how we can start compiling a project or start writing a project. So in this case, we're playing with Java. So we're learning Java, so there you go. Then what we did is I said, well, now you got to save this. You just can't just go in there and just create a project. You got to save it. So I showed you how to save a project and then how to go back in and open your project up. Again, easy peasy. Don't need to be anywhere. You don't need to be at a school computer, at your work computer, at home. You can do this on your iPad, on the train if you want. The screen might be small, but you certainly can do it. So anyway, so what do you do now? Bob, this is great. What do I do? Well, now you can execute. So I'm just going to navigate to where it says execute. And my program will execute, and it shows me some command line parameters, the Java C stuff. If you're new, ignore that for now. All this is doing, all this is doing is it's showing you that we're doing a Java compile. That's the program that we're compiling, and this is the Java runtime. Now, if you're new, don't worry about that. That's I'll figure that out later category. For now, just know that you're executing your program and your output is going right here. Eventually, these things are going to become important, but for the next 24 hours, indeed for the next few weeks or so that you're just learning Java, you can safely just ignore some of that. What you can't ignore, though, is you can't ignore syntax errors. For example, I led you down the happy path here where we didn't have any errors. So let's introduce some errors. And let me see where we're at with this. Make sure that we're recording still. There we go. That would be funny, huh? Maybe not for me. All right, so like for example, I'm going to break this on purpose. I'm going to put a space there. Now notice what you don't see is you don't see like in real time what the problem is. Some editors you do. Like for example, if you're using Eclipse for real, you would see like a red underline or something, indicating that there's an error, or yellow if it's a warning. Now remember, this is cloud programming. This is cloud native Java that we're writing, so you're not going to really get that here. But just to show you what that looks like, if I try to run this, I'm going to click on execute. You're going to get your error messages. See this? Anything that you get here that says errors are things you need to fix. Now, I showed you some obvious errors in here. Because you saw it work and I broke it and you saw what the errors look like. So let me fix it. So let me fix my errors and then run my Java program again. Make sure I work okay. I should see hello Bob, hello Cadence, hello Cassie, and hello Kathy. Said that 10 times fast. Now, let's talk about syntax a little bit. Now that you know how to run this and you know how to see if something's not compiling and what errors that you have in there. So Anyway, so what we have here is we have the Java program. So let me talk about syntax. So our main method, again, starts with an open brace and ends with an open brace. Now, when you have your open brace and your close brace within a method, this is called your method block, or in this case, it's called your main block. Just a vocabulary term. You hear Java programmers or other programmers in other languages that have similar terminology just say that. Say, look at your main block or look at your class block. So you see two blocks here. you see your main block and you also see your class block. Now, your class block, or your main block, has 5 lines of code, and your lines of code are ended with a semicolon. So basically here, system.out.println is a function, right? And we're passing in a string, hence the single quotes or double quotes. And then we're ending, the double quotes, and we're ending that line with a semicolon. If you miss a semicolon, you're going to get a compile error. So I just got rid of the semicolon after Cassie. So let me run, do an execute. See, and it tells me that, in this case, I'm missing the semicolon. That error message told me a lot. Most error messages don't. So let me make my change. Notice I don't have to save it anywhere. It saves as I'm typing it, sort of. But there's no real saving it anywhere. So let me just click on execute. And then we see that we have hello Bob, hello Cadence, hello Cassie, hello Kathy. Okay, so that concludes our intro to Coding Ground. So let me kind of sum up what we did here quickly, in about a minute or so. We don't need to spend a lot of time on it. I showed you where to find Coding Ground. I showed you what it does. I showed you, or at least kind of explained to you, how you could go into Coding Ground, set up a user, and to do so. Then what I did is I showed you all the different languages, either scripting languages or front ends or command lines, CLIs, command line interfaces, full-blown IDEs, all the cool stuff that you could do in Coding Ground. And I also told you it's really an emulator. It's not really, like I said, it's not the real download. I mean, you're not installing any of this local, which is mostly good because it gives us a chance to actually play with this. Then I showed you how to go in and create a project. In this case, we created a Java project, and I went over how to save the project and then how to navigate back to the project when, you're done at the end of the day, you close your computer, you go to sleep, and then you wake up, you're just like, how did I do that? Where's my project at? Go to the website, log in, go into your name here, find your project, you're good to go. Then I showed you how we can write, in this case, a rudimentary Java program. Now, you're not a Java genius at this point, but hey, either am I. So we got something in common there. But we went over some basics of Java, how we start with what Coding Ground gave us, and we build it out from there. And then we went over some terminology. We went over what a class block is, what a method block is, or a main block, and then went over some simple syntax for writing some Java code. All right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how we can get values into a Java program. Now, let's first start with what we're looking at here. Now, what you're looking at here is we have a simple Java program called Hello World, right? Some points for originality there. And we have one main method. And our one main method is basically just printing out 4 things. It's saying hello Bob, hello Cadence, hello Cassie, hello Kathy. Good, fine, big deal. We'll leave that for now. We can take it out. It really doesn't matter. Let's talk about what we're looking at here. We got string args. Now, what this means is this is part of the signature, or In other words, what the main method accepts as arguments. Now, here's what string args is. Now, anytime that you see this open and close bracket, that signifies array in the computer language. And I'm assuming that you guys are kind of new at languages, so I'm kind of explaining it to you in a little bit, in kind of, beginning terms of, you're new to languages, so we're learning all this. If you know Java, you already know this, and you probably shouldn't be watching this video, or send me an email. Maybe you can help me create the next one, right? Give me a break. So anyway, what this is saying is we have an array of strings that are passed into this main method. So what does that mean? Well, you should have the concept of a function down. Remember in functions, like in main method, function, in this case it means the same thing. I know for your programming purist, you're saying, no, it means something different, Bob. Okay, I'm well aware of that, but for now, let's just say functions and methods are the same. So you have your main method, function. So you have values getting passed in, and you pass values into your function, and you're able to do stuff with it, right? Okay, you should at least have that concept down, and that's what you're looking at here. So what this is saying is we have an array of strings that are being passed into the main method. So where are they being passed from? Well, they're being passed from what we call standard in. Now, standard in, when we're working in a non-cloud environment, and now we're working in a cloud environment, but standard in usually means command line arguments, meaning that we're passing them in from when we're executing the program. So what that means for us is what we can do is we can pass in values into our Java code, into our main method from standard in. And we can access them through this array. Let me explain to you how that works. First of all, let me get rid of these guys here. Oh, let me comment them out. And comments in Java are forward slashes. And there we go. So there's our forward slashes. So we have that commented out. So now if I ran this, I'm assuming it will run. I'm not going to because it'll be very anticlimactic. It won't show us anything, but it won't error either. Let's pass a value and then a main method. I'm going to go to standard in, and I'm going to pass in 3 values. I'm going to put in Bob, and then I'm going to put in, let's see, my last name, and I'll put in my age. Right? Bob Hendry, and I am 39 years old. It can happen. Maybe a long time ago it happened. Anyway, so let me go back to my source file, and let me show you how I can get these values passed in to my Java program. And you know what? I'm done with these commented lines of code, so I'm just going to get rid of them. Now, I can access them through my args. Now, args, again, is an array. So we have different array elements. I'm humming and hawing here. The best way to explain an array is the following. An array has multiple different values in it, and you count them. So we start at 0. So the 0th element is the first element of the array. Then we have the first, the second, and so forth. So what I can do, you can ignore this, pardon me. So what we can do is the following. I'm going to put in, how about this? System .out.println, and I'm going to show you the 0th element, which is the first. Everything in computers start with 0. 0 is the first. Let me show you the second and the third. Again, in English, the third is the second element of the array. So this would be Bob, passing in standard in, args1, it's getting passed in here. Remember these values, Bob, Henry, 39, when I run, are being passed into here. So I get arg0, which is the first element, which is Bob, 1 is Henry, and 2 is 39. So let me clean up my code, get rid of some white space, and let me execute. And I have an error with my syntax here. It's not print lin, it's just print ln. And you see the error messages here. So those error messages are expected. Let me see if I can clean up. Remember, nothing ever runs the first time. So here I got an error message. I get exception in thread main, index array out of bounds exception. So this is what's happening here. We got the args here, and we're trying to pass in the Bob, the Henry, and the 39. So let me change this a little bit. Let me change the string to args and put the bracket after the args. There we go. So let me run. Okay, what I did is that I kind of went fast forward a little bit just to make a point. Now, when we do that arg 0, 1, and 2, these are what we would get the standard in from the command line. Now, if we try to compile this, we're not going to get a successful compile because we're going to get a message that these array indexes don't exist. And I'll show you what I added in a second. But if I'm running this, like for example, if I just want to show arg0, I'm going to get this error message. Again, index array out of bounds exception. Now that is because since I am not running this from a command line and I'm using standard in, I can't use 1, 0, 1, and 2 as the args array getting passed in the main. I'm kind of beating around the bush for a second. What I'm saying here is we have to use another method to get standard in into our Java program. Now to do that, we use what's called the scanner class. Now what scanner does is scanner will get all of our standard in values and put them in this case, a variable which we call scanner. So we declare a variable of type scanner, we call it scanner, we give it a constructor of new scanner, and we pass into it system in, which is standard in. So basically, we're passing in Bob, Henry, 39. So go back to source. So what I'm doing now is I have 3 values. I have to get them one at a time. So I say string, first name, scanner next. That'll get me the first value, which is a string. And I'm just going to print that out to the command line. And also, scanner exists in the utility package. So make sure that you have line 1 looking just like so. We have to do an import java.util for this to work. So after we import java.util, these 3 lines should work, where we're creating a new scanner, which is basically saying give us all of our input arguments from standard in. Scanner next will go to the first one, which is Bob, and then just write it out. So if I execute this program, I get Bob. I'll give you a second because we're going to modify this program to get the last name and the age. So this might be a good place to stop the video if you want, and then you can kind of catch up with this code. So I'll give you maybe a 10-15 second sanity break to hit the pause button. If not, we'll get started just in a few seconds. Okay, so let's continue. So we got the first value. So let me get the second and the third. So I'm going to copy and paste. And I don't need to get a new scanner because I already got one on line 10. So we'll do string. We'll do last name. Equals scanner.next. So we'll do system.out last name. And we'll do the same for the age. And you want to know what? Let me see if I can get the age as an integer. So I'm going to put an int, and I'll put an age equals scanner. We'll put next int system.out print line age. Okay. And I don't need a new scanner here as well. So again, at any time, this might be a good time just to stop the video and kind of catch up here. But let me make sure I got a good running version of this. So let me just execute this. And it doesn't like the next int. So let me give me 1 second here and see if I can fix it. Actually, you know what? While I'm here, let me just kind of get rid of those spaces. Drive me crazy. And let me change the little I to a big I. There we go. And we got Bob Hendry 39. All right, so we're running and we're successful. And while we're at it, let me get rid of the system.outs, arg0, 1, and 2. I just want to illustrate them that we cannot use them here because we're not using the command line. We're using system in. So I'll give you 15 seconds or so. You can stop the video and get your code example working like so. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to add another standard in, another number, and I'll show you how to do some arithmetic with that number. All right, let me add a couple things here. So let me go to standard in, and I got the age, and let me put in the, I'm 39 years old. And how about this? I'll put in the age that I want to retire at. Let's just say I want to retire at age 65. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this program compute my days or my years to retirement. So we're going to take 39, subtract it from 65. So how do we do that? Well, let's see. We got age. So let's also get, how about retirement age? So I'm going to grab this. And we'll say int, and we'll put our age for retirement age, and for age, right? And then we'll print that out as well. So our age stands for retirement age. So we got the age and the our age. So let me run. And so we got the age is 39. He wants to retire at 65. So how long until I retire? Again, this is kind of a simple example. So let's define int, and we'll put in num years, the number of years that I want to retire. And then we'll put in num years equals, and we'll put in retirement age minus my age. And we'll show that out. We'll say system.out.println and we'll put in years to retirement equals, and we'll append num years. So what we're doing here is we're, again, going through our input arguments, right? We got the first name, the last name, the age, the retirement age, number of years, which is going to be the retirement age minus the age. And we need a semicolon here after age and one here after num years. Give you guys a second. I'm going to execute it just to make sure my program works. And there we go. We got Bob Hendry. He's 39 years old. He wants to retire at 65, and he has 26 years for retirement. So let's sum up what we did here. We went and we modified a Java program. I showed you how we could get values to go into our Java program. I went over the args array and demonstrated how we would get values if we were using a regular command line. For those of you that have never seen a regular command line, it doesn't mean anything to you, so you can safely ignore that. But I showed you can't use that here. To get values into our Java program, through standard in, we have to use the scanner class. Now, the scanner class gets the values that we specified in standard in. We need to import java.util because the scanner class belongs to this import, right? We import stuff that are, not part of core Java. So scanner is part of the util package. You see it there on line 1. So next gets the string, second string, third value is an integer, next value is an integer. We perform some math. We output a string, and then we output the number of years, which is the retirement age minus my current age is my years for retirement.